or opinions of its guests, advertisers, or even its viewers. The information contained in this program is not to be confused with medical or legal advice. An appearance on this platform is not necessarily an endorsement, but as always, we encourage you to do your own research. Enjoy the show. Good evening, everyone. And of course, welcome back to another very exciting episode of Red Pill News Live. Oh, Donnie boy, the jail is calling. Don Lemon is going to be very popular when he gets to federal supermax because he done effed up. And he is about to find out what happens when you F around with some very old and serious laws here in the United States. Yes, Maureen Jane, I am smiling. I've been beaming all day, let me tell you. I had a real hard time trying to whittle this show down. It could have been 4 hours easily. But I can't do that to you. I can't do that to myself because I got another show tonight at 10:30. Something tells me he's not going to be doing much journalism. Oh, his jaw's going to be moving. But he's not going to be recording. He's not going to be reporting. Like I said, they love little boys like Donnie Lemon in prison. All right, so if you are as excited as I am about everything that happened this weekend and you are ready to get moving, I need one very simple thing from you. All I need is for you to hit that like button, help us out by sharing the show, and then sit back, relax, and grab your popcorn because we are about to get into it right about now. All right, my friends, welcome and thank you so much for being here. Like I said, I am extremely excited about today's show. I also bit the ever-living hell out of my tongue this weekend. I made some soup for Lisa and I. We've been feasting on beef but with barley stew like for the last three and a half days now. And something happened with my jaw. I don't know, like my dad had TMJ. And so like as soon as this happened, I started thinking, oh my God, do I finally have TMJ? It was like the joint in my jaw. It felt like I was getting stabbed with a stiletto. And there was nothing I could do to stop it. And I had like a mouthful of soup. And so I'm like very gingerly trying to move the soup away from that side of my mouth. And I ended up biting my tongue. And so if I slur today, if I've got perhaps a slight drawl, or if I'm talking slower than I normally would, then that's going to be the reason. But before we get into everything we're going to talk about today, I do want to tell you guys about the sponsor of my show today. That's going to be my friend Jessica over at goallgood.com/RedPill78. They have a very special Valentine's sale going on right now. On top of the fact that they have an incredible lineup of natural, clean skincare products that use all premium, natural, and purposeful ingredients like 100% grass-fed beef tallow. They are also giving away free samples of their tallow sunscreen when you purchase any bundle and when you use my code RedPill78. Now, that is going through the, I guess, Valentine's Day itself on February 14th of this next month of this year. So you've got plenty of time, but do not dilly-dally. Don't dawdle around. You want to make sure that you get that special someone something that they are really going to appreciate. So head on over to goallgood.com/RedPill78. You can choose from their pure tallow moisturizers, their face balms, their tallow sunscreen, their zero toxin smoothing serum, their hair care products, and of course the bundles. The bundles are what you want because you're going to get a discount with my code RedPill78. 78, and then you're also going to get something for free. So you can also use that QR code that you see on screen if you have a phone in front of you and you want to just hold it up, turn the camera on, and boom, it is simple as that. All right, so thank you so much to goallgood.com/redpill78, and also thank you so much to my good friend Frodo Baggins over there on Rumble, kicking it off early with a $25 Bitcoin donation over on, of course, Rumble Wallet. Thank you very much also to Rumble Wallet. I might as well tell you guys about them too while I've got the opportunity. Hold on just a second. I guess I need to refresh. Oh my God, it just kicked me out of the stream. Okay, am I back in, you guys? Okay, it looks like I'm in. All right, so real quickly, they can cancel your accounts, they can freeze your cards, and they can decide what you're allowed to say, buy, who you're allowed to support. Big banks and financial institutions have got total control, and they use it. And this is why financial independence matters more now than at any time in history. So introducing Rumble Wallet, a wallet built for real freedom. With Rumble Wallet, you control your money. No banks control it, no government, no tech companies. But you can buy digital assets like Tether, Tether Gold, and, of course, Bitcoin all in one place. There's no permission you need to be granted. There's no middlemen to scrape off the top. There's no cancel button to stop you from doing it. And when you want to support creators that you actually believe in, like myself, you can use that Rumble Wallet app to directly tip content creators securely, instantly, and without any outside interference. It's not a credit line they can shut off. It is your wallet permanently. It's yours to protect for the future, to protect for your family. Because when the system fails, when institutions turn on their own people, and financial sovereignty becomes the difference between security and vulnerability. Rumble Wallet is not about politics. It's about freedom, ownership, and protecting what's yours. So take control today. Download Rumble Wallet now and step away from the big banks for good. True ownership, true protection, true financial freedom, and it is truly available right now at wallet.rumble.com or using that QR code or by going to the app on your phone. All right, so I would like to also begin today with the story that kind of dovetails with this. So gold and silver are still going crazy. It hit silver hit $94 an ounce for the first time yesterday in the last 24 hours. In Japan, gold is going for like $128 an ounce. In other Asian countries, it is not far behind. And so, wouldn't you know it, something needs to become the new silver, and it would appear that copper may just be it. Now, as I have told you, the value of copper appears to be rising kind of in tandem with gold and silver. Now, if you go to AppMex, you can see here that copper rounds, copper bars, ounces of copper are no longer available. Now, I either believe that that is because they sold out because so many people wanted it, or it means that AppMex is unable to fulfill their obligations because copper is also in demand from industrial sources. As you know, copper is in basically every single electronic that we use, far more than silver is, or certainly to a greater degree. It's in all the wires we use. It's in every single computer, every single circuit board. It's literally everywhere. So, as we see the price of gold and silver rising higher with institutional pressure as well as retail pressure, we are now beginning to see the exact same thing with copper. Now, I love the idea of metals, true money, becoming more and more valuable, but the one thing that is kind of scary is it doesn't mean that these metals are actually worth more. It means that the dollar is worth less. Now, of course, we haven't had a total crash of the dollar because that would mean that everything else would be catching up to the price of gold and silver. But it really does put a damper on things with the price of consumer electronics and so many other things that might be coming up in the future. Now, that is up to you on how you're going to interpret that information, but I am still super bullish on all forms of precious metal and even the industrial metals that we see here, like copper. So just keep an eye on this one because who knows, maybe copper is the next one to break $25, $50, and then $93 an ounce. We'll have to see. All right, now I have a brief story for you. A couple of months ago, we covered the fact that Josh Shapiro had been upset about the way he feels he was treated by the Kamala Harris campaign. He said during an interview that they were kind of mean to him. They were asking him sort of contentious questions. Well, he's actually 9506 here. Wow, it's up to 95 now? Okay, wow. 195 in Japan and Singapore. Holy crap. Wow, that is way higher than it was when I checked last time. Oh, my goodness. We might as well just do this. Let me go to JM Bullion. Okay. Oh, my God. Silver is 9507. Wow, platinum's up to 2389. Palladium is still a little bit lower, but higher than it has been historically, 1,860. And while we're here, let's go look and see if copper rounds are available on JM Bullion. There's nothing. Not a thing. All of them are gone. Holy jeez. You can order pre-sales, but who knows how soon they're going to come in. Wowzers. Absolutely insane. Well, this is wonderful. I'm just so excited to see it happening. Let me also say thank you to Tracy S. She says, hey, Zach, we had a 100-car pileup on I-96 near Grand Rapids today. Yikes. Holy jeez. Was there any deaths? Is everybody okay? That's awful. I hope you're all right. Filter Dog says, federally charging a black man with a KK act on MLK Day is beyond irony. Yes, now I don't even have to make that joke, Filter Dog. Thank you very much. All right, so what struck me as funny about this story is that Kamala Harris's campaign team, when they were questioning Josh Shapiro about being her potential VP pick, apparently they had asked him these unnecessarily contentious questions, including asking whether or not he was an agent of the Israeli government, which obviously you guys understand the irony and the hilarity in that. Had I been a double agent for Israel? Was she kidding? I told her how offensive the question was. Remus was just doing her job. I get it. But the fact that she asked or was told to ask that question by someone else said a lot about the people around the VP. I found it hilarious to imagine that the Kamala Harris campaign was worried about the infiltration of Jewish spies. How funny is that? Jixerman says, Zach, silver is moving for both currency debasement and, yes, I know, the difference can be visualized when comparing to gold, which is mostly moving because of currency debasement. I am aware. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate you. So continuing, we also have an update in the long, sordid, and sad tale of Eric Swalwell. Joel Gilbert, who has been doing incredible work. He's the one who exposed Letitia Pkwy James. He's the one who exposed Eric Swalwell's issues with his residency. He has actually filed a lawsuit, and we spoke about that a couple of weeks ago when Joel had first filed it in court. But now the Daily Mail is actually writing about Eric Swalwell's problems. So Joel Gilbert seems to be getting a little bit of attention outside of the sort of realm that he might normally be relegated to. So the Daily Mail reports on the fact that Eric Swalwell had listed on his election paperwork a address which is not his true residence, and that raises all the questions that we need to ask about whether or not Swalwell is even qualified to run for governor. I think we know the answer to that question. The answer is, okay, he is not. AOB22 says, Zach, love to hear the smile in your voice. Avoid the Florida snow. You know, we don't have any snow where I'm at. I don't know exactly where it is. CanCon told me it was Destin, which he says is in the Panhandle, but we've got no snow where we are. Let me tell you, I think it's 56 degrees right now here. Oh, my phone does not work. Okay. Yeah, 56 degrees. Now, I do have a little bit of additional commentary on Eric Swalwell, but I'm going to save that for a little bit later in the show. I can only hope that the DOJ is going to move on these charges and that the state of California is going to be forced to make a public statement about Eric Swalwell's residency as well. Because if he's allowed to actually be a candidate on the ballot in the primary, then that could cause a whole host of problems. Of course, if Eric Swalwell wins the primary, and then he goes up against a Republican contender who is a resident, and only after that takes place, Eric Swalwell is forced to drop out, well, then that means by default, the state of California would be able to have a Republican governor. I don't know how effective they would be given the overwhelming liberal, control that they have in that state, but certainly it's an interesting concept. Now, in regards to Greenland, we've spoken quite a bit about President Trump's attempts to secure Greenland from the Kingdom of Denmark. And one thing that came out over the weekend were some disturbing interviews where residents of Greenland, the native Greenlanders, had spoken about the forced sterilization program that the Kingdom of Denmark had and were doing up until the mid-1990s. Now, this is the sort of thing that Denmark would really rather people did not discuss, and the fact that Greenland is so isolated and it's not often that many people visit there, you generally have to have a specific reason to show up there. The fact that the New York Post went and spoke with native Greenlanders about the sort of disturbing things that have happened under Danish rule. And, of course, they also wanted to get their opinions on whether or not they were in favor of President Trump in the United States of America acquiring Greenland, which, spoiler alert, they are. They had an opportunity to talk with women and girls who had been forcibly given contraception between 1960 and 1991. And then between 1966 and 1970, there were over 4,500 women and girls, some who were as young as 12 years old, so just barely entering puberty, who had an IUD implanted in them. Now, these were part of a mandatory forced sterilization program that the Danish ruling class had imposed on Greenland women because they did not want them to breed. They simply wanted the native islanders of Greenland to die out and for the land to essentially be passed to the Kingdom of Denmark when they didn't have any kids to take their place. Now, in 1951, something called the Little Danes Experiment was enacted. And what it was is a forced removal program of these Inuit children, Inuits being the native citizens of Greenland. And they would be sent to live in Denmark with Danish foster families. And then once there, they would be subjected to re-education and controversial parental competency tests, which resulted in the forced separation of Greenlandic families. Never hear anyone talking about that. It's, however, very similar to what the Canadian government did to the not Native Americans. They call them First Nations people, the Indians in Canada, and even what the American government did to certain Indian tribes, Native American tribes here in the United States, as they were trying to sort of anglicize and westernize the Native Americans. Now, a woman by the name of Amarok Peterson was 27 years old when she learned the truth about why she couldn't have any children. She had been suffering from uterine problems, and a medical doctor discovered there was an IUD birth control device in her body. Now, she did not know how it got there. She had never given the okay for it to be inserted, and doctors had put it inside of her uterus when she was only 13 years old as part of this aforementioned population control program. And again, they did it to thousands of women and girls there. Now, because it had been inside of her uterus for so long, she was at that point no longer able to have children. She was very upset about that. She felt that the choice had been robbed from her. And after a 2-year investigation, independent researchers have now released a detailed report you can read on this forced sterilization program. And of course, because it is 2025 now, it's now 2026, Denmark's Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen has issued an apology to Greenland. In August of 2025, she wrote, "We cannot change what has happened, but we can take responsibility. Therefore, on behalf of Denmark, I would like to say I apologize." Well, that's very kind of you. But what about all those women who aren't going to be having kids? She also said that this action that was taken by the Kingdom of Denmark had caused anger and sadness for many Greenlanders and many families. And, of course, it's damaged the perception of Denmark in the global eyes of the community. And this, of course, is one of the reasons why the people of Greenland, the Inuits, the native Greenlanders, are not so keen on continuing to be ruled by Denmark. I can tell you this, the people of Greenland will have a much better life if the United States of America is allowed to come in, and we are given the ownership of Greenland, and we will do everything in our power to develop that country. We will do everything in our power to help bring those people into the 21st century. I also have one other clip here of another native Greenlander, an Inuit man, and he is talking about he and his people's desire. Now, he's actually a politician or a political figure of type. I don't know if he holds elected office, but his name is Jørgen Borsen, and here he is.
You know, it was very great for the Greenlandic when they came to Nuuk on 7th January last year. So we have a good attention, and it was very good for the Greenlandic because we have on the suppressed people from Denmark in many years. So that attention we have from Trump, it is very good for the Greenlandic people. So now the people in the world is aware of Greenland and the Greenlandic people, and still we are not recognized as a people. We are forced to be Danish citizen. We was annexed in the 1953 with a referendum from Denmark. So we want to be recognized people. I think Trump will help us with that situation.
Jørgen, all the polls I've seen.
So the people of Greenland have spoken. I have never heard a single native Greenlander say that there's something wrong with Donald Trump and his interest in Greenland. Never heard a single Inuit come forth and say something bad about Donald Trump. The only people that I hear talking shit about Donald Trump are the elitist, globalist, WEF puppets in Europe, and, of course, their cabal, deep state American politician counterparts, like this group of Republicans who just flew to Greenland of their own accord. U.S. senators, people like Tom Tillis and Lisa Murkowski. They also went with a number of Democrats because they apparently don't like the idea that President Trump might acquire Greenland. They don't want American Western Hemisphere superiority. And of course, they also don't want the native people of Greenland to have their own self-determination. They would rather that we stay subservient to the global New World Order axis, NATO, the United Nations, the old blue blood in Europe. But President Trump ain't about that life. He is about the self-determination of the people of the United States, and he is working to help the people of every single nation gain their own sovereignty. So this group of senators, which you can see here, they traveled to Greenland. They met with the Prime Minister of Denmark, Mette Frederiksen, and they wanted to assure her that they support Denmark before they support the United States of America. Now, Tom Tillis and Lisa Murkowski, they are publicly sparring with President Trump, and because they don't want President Trump to have anything to do with Greenland. Now, I expect that from both of them. The rest of these people are just filthy Democrat scum. If the people of Greenland have, oh, look, they also... They got that dude in there, too. I forgot his name. Anyways, and look at Dick Durbin. Dick Durbin is on his last leg. This man looks like he is just having trouble getting out of bed in the morning. Either way, they are apparently looking at passing some legislation to stop President Trump from acquiring Greenland. But if he makes an offer that they cannot refuse, then they're just going to have to go ahead and deal with it. Now, another aspect of this is that everybody knows President Trump is the most powerful man in the world. He is wielding the most powerful military. He's got the most dedicated base. He's got the strongest administration. He's got the best policies. Every other nation on planet Earth is looking at the United States of America right now, and they're saying, God, I thought Trump was a buffoon. I thought he was stupid. And now look at the U.S. They are just dominating everything they choose to do. President Trump is heading off to the World Economic Forum in Davos very soon. And you know who isn't going to show up? Denmark. They are too afraid to show their ass in public because President Trump has continuously gone in front of the cameras and told the world, we will have Greenland. Greenland is ours. We have a greater claim to Greenland than Denmark. Now, Prime Minister Viktor Orban actually warned Europe last year about the arrival of Hurricane Trump. And I got to say, he was spot on with that analysis. Here we are 1 year into President Trump's administration. And like I said, he is firing on all cylinders. This isn't like a four-banger. This is a V12 coming out of some futuristic machine. Every single cylinder is firing exactly as timed, and these people cannot stop him. They can't stop us. They can't stop the United States of America. The globalists, and like I said, those puppets at the World Economic Forum in Davos, when President Trump and the delegation from the United States of America walk in to the World Economic Forum, they're going to get a taste in their mouth. What's that? That's freedom. That's liberty. And I sense an odor of French fries. Maybe a cheeseburger or two. Either way, when President Trump shows up, he's going to dominate. There's no way these people are going to be able to say anything to him. What he's doing is essentially a humiliation tour. He is going into the den of vipers to tell the globalists, you tried to kill me, and I have come back from the dead to essentially vanquish all of my foes. So Denmark would normally be there, but for some reason they've chosen not to attend this time. And the only reason that I can think they're not going to attend is because they are so supremely embarrassed. In a statement, the forum said, we can confirm the Danish government will not be represented in Davos this week. Danish government representatives were invited this year, and any decisions on attendance are a matter for the government concerned. President Trump is also going to be delivering a keynote speech. That's going to be held on a Wednesday. So we'll see. We'll probably have some clips from that. But he's most likely going to be speaking directly to those same globalist New World Order cucks in Europe. Nearly 3,000 attendees are going to be at Davos. And I think that the only thing anybody is interested in hearing is what is President Trump going to say? Now, there is also the question of whether or not NATO will be an impediment to President Trump and the United States acquiring Greenland. We've had all of these mixed messages coming from a number of different areas. Personally, I don't care if NATO crumbles. I don't care if the United States pulls out of NATO. I don't care if France is talking about pulling out of NATO. They did it once before, and they were gone for like 30 years. But if the United States pulls out of NATO, NATO is not going to exist anymore. These other nations simply don't have the money to put it in. They also don't have the capabilities. Over the weekend, France, Germany, the UK, they sent soldiers to Greenland to stop the United States. I mean, we've already got a bunch of bases there. We've got more soldiers there than any other country on Earth. And by the end of the weekend, they were gone. President Trump announced a 25% tariff on any country that wants to stand in the way of us acquiring Greenland. Now, Scott Bessent, he also did a couple of interviews over the weekend. This time, NBC's Meet the Press was his stomping grounds. And Kristen Welker was asking hostile questions about our wish to acquire Greenland. Let's go ahead and hear Scott Bessent tell Kristen what's going on and what she needs to really think about. Actually, I might have to wait for a commercial. Yeah, let me get past this. Thank you so much, Doodah Man. The Great Awakening is finally getting traction in our country and around the world. It's hitting from all sides. Nothing can stop what is coming. Nothing. Peace. Polly, 9363, thank you for the ship. In Greenland about NASA and the fake Mars. Is Greenland about NASA and the fake Mars rovers? All those Davos leeches rich off NASA. I think that NASA is, I would say that that's probably not it. I think that everything, okay, so the history of the United States and Greenland goes back to the end of World War II. As soon as World War II ended and then Russia went from being an ally to suddenly being an enemy, we witnessed, or we recognized rather, the strategic importance of Greenland because it's it's essentially like the last entrance to the Arctic. And if anything from the other side of the world wants to make its way to the United States, the quickest way and also the sanest way really is to go through that way. And if we control Greenland, it is a massive swath of land. It truly is of great strategic importance. There also is, of course, a lot of wealth that has been undeveloped there. I would say that the NASA stuff is probably not it because that's a publicly known thing. So, we could have access to it at any point. I think that get the wealthy individuals of Europe, is it possible that they were getting wealthy in some way off of NASA? Sure, if they had some sort of ownership stake in military contractors and stuff like that, but there are so many of them. I'd say that that's probably not like the primary thing that they're thinking of. But again, the deep state has had their hooks in just about every place you can possibly think of. It is entirely probable that there is something about Greenland that I have not suggested yet. One thing I suggested with CanCon this morning was perhaps the opening to Agartha, the Hollow Earth. That's kind of out there for some people, but this would be in the area of where we would gain access to it. And that'll come up if I talk about another story a little bit later on. But, it is entirely possible there is something else going on in Greenland that is just not super obvious at this time. Whoa. Hold on.
Let's look back. Denmark has a terrible history with Greenlanders. There was forced sterilizations up until the 80s or the 90s. So all of a sudden, now that the U.S. has expressed an interest, there is this new interest. And again, the United States needs to be in control to prevent a war, and that we do not want to get dragged into someone else's war.
Now, the threat from France, from Denmark, from many other NATO nations has been that if the United States asserts itself militarily and claims Greenland without doing some type of a deal, even though they're openly saying like a deal is not on the table yet, the threat has been that the United States would then essentially dissolve NATO because of our strategic positioning within the organization. And all of these other nations would then have to go Article 5 and then go to war with us. We would destroy all of them. We don't want to do that. But ultimately, Scott Bessent, with that comment saying that the United States doesn't want to go to war for somebody else, that's effectively rebuking Article 5 from the NATO Charter. He's saying openly, you know what, like, we're in this group, and we're supposed to do this, but we don't want to. And so therefore, we're not gonna. So everybody better get their shit together because we're not going to fight your wars for you. Not anymore.
Well, but this is about the United States' relationship with its allies, NATO allies, again, reacting with alarm. They're warning that this move to annex Greenland could, in fact, destroy NATO. So let me just put this to you bluntly. Is Greenland or NATO more essential to the United States' national security?
Well,
personally, I would say that Greenland is more essential. NATO does nothing for the United States of America. The United States of America does everything for NATO. However, Scott Bessent can't come right out and say that. It's like you got to smile at someone while you're stabbing them in the back or while you're taping a sign to their back that says, I'm a retard. Scott Bessent is doing that right now.
Chris, that's obviously a false choice. That's a
Not from the perspective of European leaders.
The European leaders will come around and they will understand that they need to be under the U.S. security umbrella.
And there you go. Again, we do a lot more for NATO than anybody else does. Now, considering that strategic nature of Greenland, the size of the landmass, entrance to the Arctic, anything coming from the other side of the world, Russia, China, etc., is going to have to go through Greenland, essentially, either fly over it or go around it. If the United States has possession of Greenland and it's our sovereign property and we protect it in the same way that we protect, the 48 and 49th and 50th states, then that will be good for Europe. And much in the same way that Europe and these puppets at Davos have had to get on board with what President Trump has done in the last year, essentially admitting that the United States is dominating their asses, they're going to have to do the exact same thing when it comes to Greenland. There's just no way around it. Like, hey, put up or shut up, piss or get off the pot.
What would happen in Ukraine that if the U.S. pulled its support out? The whole thing would collapse. That the U.S., Kristen, to be clear, since 1980, the U.S. has spent U.S. military spending versus NATO military spending. We have spent 22 trillion more dollars than the Europeans have. That we are peace through strength. And the Europeans now are only trying to play catch up. And that is only through President Trump. President Trump believes in NATO, but he does not believe in the American people being dragged in.
In terms of the cost.
So, in addition to that, what has President Trump done since he's come into power? He's brought peace all across the world. He has ended every conflict. He has literally cut the balls off the military-industrial complex. He has ended a significant amount of drug trafficking, a significant amount of human trafficking, a significant amount of weapons trafficking. He has essentially cut off all of these tried and true methods that the deep state has had to push money through and make themselves rich tremendously on the other side, while at the same time basking in the negative spiritual energy that comes with killing tens of thousands, if not millions of people. President Trump has fundamentally rewritten the game. This is no longer an economy, a global economy of scale, built around war, death, child trafficking, drugs, weapons, all of the terrible things that I think every single one of us wanted to see go away. In barely a year, President Trump has nearly done away with all of them. And not only has that cut the balls off the military-industrial complex, that's cut the balls off of all of the bankers and the nations that were profiting off of all of that suffering and all of that death. Now, over the weekend, President Trump also put out a banger of a post on Saturday. He's called directly for the consequences of the radical left insurrectionists who illegally ran the Biden administration, the people who stole the 2020 election. This was a truth that was directed squarely at the ears of the Department of Justice. Now, I know a lot of you are disaffected with Attorney General Pam Bondi. And I believe that President Trump would not have put her there if he didn't believe that she was going to be able to follow through on what needs to be done. Because everything that I've mentioned up until this point would signify a death sentence for President Trump and every single person in his administration if we get to the end of this 4-year term and they're unable to deliver the package. If they're unable to make it to the end zone by the end of this 4 years and bring about the justice that we all need, that we all deserve, then nothing is going to change after President Trump leaves. And once these people are able to gather the strength and the power again, they are not going to be able to do anything to stop them. Well, we're not going to be able to do anything to stop them because they're going to come back harder than ever. So Attorney General Pam Bondi, many people have pointed out, it's not too popular with a lot of people because there have been no high-profile arrests. We've talked about this on a number of occasions. Of course, there is blame to be had at the Department of Justice. However, the Department of Justice cannot help the jurisdiction under which crimes are committed. And one of the biggest impediments to being able to bring people to justice is whether or not you have the U.S. attorneys that are going to do the job. We have seen this consistent rotating door of U.S. attorneys come and go, and decisions from bought and paid for justices who have been implanted by past deep state administrations, stopping them from being able to do anything about it. Now, Wednesday is the contempt vote for Bill and Hillary Clinton. So on Wednesday, the Oversight Committee is going to hold them in contempt. Then a warrant for their arrest will be revealed. But the Senate is the one who is holding up all of these confirmations, and most importantly, the confirmations of the U.S. attorneys who need to prosecute these cases. Pam Bondi does not go out and prosecute a case in, the Eastern District of Virginia. There's this hierarchy. Unfortunately, this is the way things are. Now, President Trump said on Truth Social that first of all, before that, he's making this statement in the context of the fact that he's already nullified all of Joe Biden's executive orders, the laws, maybe even Ketanji Brown Jackson. We have yet to see any sort of challenge to this in court. Personally, I've been waiting for something like that to happen. I mean, it's not just Pam Bondi. I'm wondering where Todd Blanche is on all of this. We know that Ed Martin is supposed to be the specific special attorney who's supposed to be looking at these things. I don't know why we haven't seen any cases, but I truly do believe that Ed Martin is the man that he says he is. We've already found through an act of Congress and an act of President Trump through this investigation into the auto pen that the people who were running the auto pen were not people who had the approval or even the knowledge of Joe Biden, which is why President Trump and Congress both declared that anything signed by the auto pen was null and void, had no force or effect. Comer had said, our congressional investigation will serve as the basis to uphold the declaration of some of those pardons and executive orders being null and void. I would like to see one of these tested in court. Bring some charges against someone who Joe Biden had given a pardon to. Let's test it out. Now, the White House counsel's office also investigated the auto pen. There's a lot of documents in this investigation, over 1 million documents being probed, including all of those last-minute pardons and the pardons of the Unselect Committee. But Joe Biden claims that he made every decision. Well, let's get Joe Biden under oath. Let's have him come in and let's question him about things related to these various signatures. Now, we also had details confirming that Joe Biden never reviewed any of those thousands of pardons that were signed in his name, which means that the people who signed them essentially made up their own minds. They usurped the executive power of the president. White House Staff Secretary Steph Feldman was one of those people. She admitted that she did not have evidence that Biden consented to his auto pen signature being used on clemencies that were given to many, many dangerous criminals. And President Trump had said that what was done is totally illegal. Anything signed that way is of no further force or effect, and the person who worked the auto pen had no idea whether or not Biden approved of what he was doing. There was no order in writing. It was an absolutely illegal act, and it was perpetrated by the radical left insurrectionists who illegally ran the Biden administration. Every one of them should be arrested for what they've done to our country. They didn't win the presidency, but when you think of it, neither did Joe Biden. The whole thing was rigged. There must be a price to pay, and it has got to be a big one. Everyone is asking about the auto pen. Are they really? I mean, this is something that we had spoken about previously. The fact that President Trump is bringing it up now kind of makes me think, well, gosh, are we finally going to see some of these people get arrested? We're certainly no closer to having a U.S. attorney outside of Washington, D.C. that we can bring these cases to. Judge Jeanine Pirro is absolutely solid, and these cases clearly happened here in the District of Columbia. But then we have to contend with the jury pool. The jury continues to nullify cases, which, in my opinion, and in the opinions of the Department of Justice, have been rock solid. They've been cases that in any other jurisdiction, they would have led to convictions. But unfortunately, Washington, D.C. is made up almost entirely of radical left liberals, people who do not want to see any of their friends be brought to justice. So perhaps a change of venue is necessary, but the only thing that's going to make this a possibility is they have to take the first step. So let's do it, guys. Let's do it. President Trump wants you to do it. We, the people, want you to do it. Hey, would you blow me says Greenland will be the next Area 51. Who would want to be there checking it out? Well, you're right. Nobody would be able to check it out, except for perhaps, the people living there. But even them, they're not going to be going out to the most remote places. All right. Now, Senator Chris Van Hollen over the weekend was interviewed about the actions of ICE and the illegals that are being arrested by them. He said that ICE is a threat to American security. ICE agents are the ones breaking the law, not the peaceful protesters. Well, we'll actually have a retort for that. But he's calling for ICE to be defunded. He claimed that these rioters impeding ICE operations and assaulting law enforcement and even assaulting more than just law enforcement. They are choosing random people on the street to assault that they think might be ICE agents. We'll show you a video of that in just a moment. But Senator Chris Van Hollen seems to think that there is no logical reason for ICE to be out there on the streets. What do we know about them? Well, we know that they're out there arresting the worst of the worst. They are arresting people who have final orders of removal. They're arresting people who have committed heinous acts, heinous crimes against the most vulnerable members of society, women, children, things that you should never expect to see. But Senator Chris Van Hollen, still the man who had mimosas with a human trafficker and a child molester and a wife beater and an MS-13 gang member, Senator Chris Van Hollen thinks that those are his people. Well, let's look at some of who those people might be, because we've just learned about the arrest of 4 MS-13 gangbangers. These guys were arrested in Maryland, right near Chris Van Hollen's backyard. They murdered a 14-year-old boy. A 14-year-old boy. How did they murder him? Well, they chopped him up with a machete. This young man, Jefferson Amaya Ayala, was discovered with multiple injuries in what the medical examiner ruled as a homicide back in November. He was at Indian Creek Stream Valley Park in College Park, Maryland. Now, he was last seen in Washington, D.C., in August of last year. So the Prince George's County Police Department said in a press release on Saturday that they believe Ayala was lured to the park and murdered on that day, August 2nd. Investigators disclosed that Amala Ayala knew at least one of the suspects. Hi, honey. And it's been confirmed through a source that the crime is, in fact, linked to the MS-13 gang. You have to ask yourself, why is it that Chris Van Hollen can't admit that gangbangers are bad for your community? Why is it that every single time he has an opportunity to, he stands up for people like these monsters here? 18-year-old Jose Merlos Mahano, 21-year-old Alan Josiah Garcia Padilla, and 19-year-old William Cular Gutierrez. There's also a 4th suspect from Hyattsville, Maryland, and he is unidentified because apparently he's underage. All 4 of these suspects are now in custody. They're charged with the murder of young 14-year-old Jefferson in the Washington, D.C. area. And this was, by all accounts, a heinous and bloodthirsty murder. Not the kind of thing that you want to see happen to anybody, let alone a 14-year-old boy. And given the opportunity to decry this type of vicious killing by Senator Chris Van Hollen, he can't do it.
On your screen, the 4th is underage and police are not publicly identifying them. All are in custody. This investigation dates back to early November after local officers and FBI agents found a body while searching for a missing person at Indian Creek Stream Valley Park in College Park, Maryland. Our Felicia Ashley reports police say the murders appear to be gang-related.
14-year-old Jefferson Amaya Ayala of D.C. was last seen alive here near this street in the Brightwood neighborhood in Northwest D.C. Investigators say that he was killed the same day that he went missing back in August. 7 News learned from investigators that the teen was lured to the Indian Creek Stream Valley Park in College Park. Saturday, law enforcement announced 4 suspects were arrested. The Prince George's County Police Department charged.
So they literally chopped this kid to death. Chopped him to death. And this, once again, is the people that Senator Chris Van Hollen believes are not a threat to society. Now, take a look at this. Here is one of many videos that came out over the weekend. And it's not even the worst, but this is just a guy who rented a vehicle, and he happened to be in Minneapolis. His rental has Texas plates. And because his rental has Texas plates, literally every single moron in Minneapolis who is driving around the area, I guess, trying to stop ICE from kidnapping innocent fathers and mothers, they are screaming, they are honking, they are whistling, they're trying to draw attention because they think this guy's ICE, but he's not ICE.
You hear all the beeping? It's for me. Why? This right here. Texas plates. When you're in Minnesota with Texas plates, everybody thinks you're ICE. I'm just trying to get some food. This is what I got to deal with.
Absolutely insane. Now, the worst part of that is that these liberals are chasing people down all over Minneapolis. And if they think you are affiliated with ICE, if they see a white man walking down the street in Minneapolis, they are literally attacking you. And they're not even waiting to find out whether or not you work for ICE. They just threaten you. They beat you. They chase you down. They tell you to get the hell out. This is not where you want to be right now. Here's an example right here. These guys are IT. Like they're visiting Minneapolis because they're on assignment for their company. And they're eating like at a Chipotle or something like that. And they're not ICE.
I mean, so cool as in like this has got to be the funniest thing I've ever seen. I know, it's like, you feel like a zoo animal. I've never.
Then why are you here? I'm just trying to enjoy my lunch. If you're not with us.
So now they get a crowd. They get a crowd, and they find themselves out in front of this Chipotle, and they're ready for these guys to come out so they can scream at them, so that they can tell them that they are the worst thing on planet Earth. Here's another one. Guy just walking while white. He's not ICE. He's not identifying himself as ICE. He's just a dude walking down the street in Minneapolis.
Where you going? Huh? Are you ICE? No. Do you like ICE? Say F ICE! Say it! Say it, bitch! You're a bitch! Your mom's a bitch! Say it! F you! F you, Nazi! F you, Nazi! F you, Nazi!
Dude's like, are you kidding me? You've got to be kidding me. Here's another one. Now, I also just want to say, like, Minneapolis police have completely abandoned the streets. Here, part of those same groups that are hunting down people they believe to be ICE, they followed this guy and they just beat the shit out of him because they thought he might be ICE.
Let him up, man. Let him up. Wait a minute. Let him up. Okay. Okay. Get up. Let him go. Get your ass up. You good? You're not happy? Okay. That's all they asked. That's all they asked.
Now, what do you think identifies this guy as ICE? Because he's white, he's wearing khakis, he's got a real tree jacket on. I mean, like, it's just kind of what I assume people would wear in Minneapolis. Now, this should also get your jimmies rustling, guys. In the Somali fraud scandal, it would appear that finally Republicans have begun to put two and two together to determine that, wow, the importation of illegal aliens, the importation of bodies could equal election fraud. This might have been a strategy for the Democrats to import new voters for themselves. Of course, that's exactly one of the big reasons why it was. As we continue to dive into the complexity of the Somali fraud scandal, not just in Minnesota, but all around the country, all of these different reasons why they have been protected are becoming much, much clearer. So now, for the first time, Republicans in Congress are finally being honest about what this truly means for the Democrats, because there's only one group of people who don't want this investigated. It's the people who are benefiting from it. Democrats use illegal immigrants, illegal aliens. They bring in refugees. They use these people as bodies to register to vote, and then they hijack elections, and then they manipulate everything in the system, subverting our republic. So Republicans have finally begun to see that everything the Democrats have done have led us to this moment. All of these nonprofits that are siphoning money out of the system, the same non-governmental organizations that the dumb Republicans in the Senate just continued to fund, despite the fact that President Trump has openly called for these organizations to no longer be funded. Why are they funding the National Endowment for Democracy? Why are they sending money to these foreign nations? Why are they continuing to give money to all of these sources that are ending up into the pockets of Democrats and these illegal aliens? Why is it that Governor Tim Walz and Mayor Jacob Fry seem to do absolutely nothing about this problem? Why have they known about it for so many years, and only now are they finally starting to be able to talk about it, even if it's to tell ICE that they don't want them there? Well, again, that's because they are benefiting from this in so many different ways. Stephen Miller said it this weekend that the immigrant illegal alien scheme is the heart of the Democrat Party's political power. Before we see this clip from Stephen Miller, I have a very quick message from our friends over here on Rumble. You guys, I want to tell you about a law that was just passed. President Trump legalized hemp back in 2018, but legislation just passed through that bans almost all CBD and hemp products, and that's going to happen by November. Hemp is not the same thing as marijuana. Hemp is a historic American commodity. George Washington grew hemp. Some colonies required a percentage of your crops to be hemp because it was so valuable, so useful. And colonists could even pay taxes using hemp. In 1930, before it was banned for the first time, hemp was used by 25,000 products here in the United States, and it generated $1 billion a year in 1930 funds. So for perspective, that equaled 25% of the federal budget. Hemp holds tremendous potential for America's economy today. So here's what's been happening. There's a few powerful groups of pharma and marijuana lobbyists, and they've been pushing for this ban. This legislation makes CBD and hemp products scientifically and financially impossible to make. That's going to affect 325,000 jobs. It's going to wipe out thousands of American innovations that range from energy alternatives to durable building materials and even biodegradable plastic alternatives, which reduce microplastics and dependence on Chinese products. I don't see why they wouldn't want to do that. This bill would affect a lot of you in America in ways that you're unaware of, and many of us probably haven't even thought of yet. So click the Emerald Med link below to learn about this bill and how you can help fight this ban. The company Emerald Med, who supports channels like ours with ads, has been fighting this ban, and they fought vaccine mandates during COVID. They reached 120 plus million views in ads fighting those mandates, and now they're fighting this ban, and they need your help. So click below, learn more. You can use the QR code on screen or the link below. Thank you very much to Emerald Med. This is something that America should not do away with. All right, let's hear from Stephen Miller, because, again, Stephen Miller has got the ear of the president. He is about as close as you can get to the Oval Office.
What Democrats are doing is vote harvesting, fraud harvesting, ballot harvesting, crime harvesting. Ask yourself, why would Fry, why would Waltz sanction such egregious violence against ICE officers? Because they understand that this scheme, this mass migration scheme, is the heart of the Democratic Party's political power. It is their plan for power today and long into the future. So they know that if this administration of President Trump is successful in reversing this invasion, it will deal a generational blow to Democrat political power.
Well, before I let you go,
what Democrats
It will be the literal destruction of the Democrat Party. Literally everything that they have been betting on is going to be gone. Women like this. Women like this, okay? Immigrants like this. This is probably the best argument for why we don't need Somalians coming to the United States of America with their hand out. Take a look. Cross-eyed, snaggle-toothed, marble-mouthed broads like this are what the Democrats have been importing. This woman right here is another guaranteed 15 Democrat votes in 18 years' time, because she's going to come here. They've already ensured that everything she needs is going to be paid for. They're going to teach her how to open up a business. They're going to teach her how to build the federal government. They're going to teach her how to commit fraud. And then she's going to have a whole litter of Somali kids here in the United States of America. And each and every one of them is going to do the exact same thing. These people are not congruent with the foundational factors that gave America the opportunity that they are stealing from us to hand to her. It was announced this weekend that it was not AI. 100% that was not AI. That was real. Kristi Noem announced that 10,000 illegal immigrants, illegal aliens, have been arrested since Operation Metro Surge began. 10,000 illegals in the city of Minneapolis. And we're just getting started. Now, Texas, for the first time, they started tracking how much money they were spending on illegals, on hospital costs. For the year of 2025, the lowest number of illegal aliens coming into the United States in probably my adult lifetime. And it still cost the taxpayers over $1 billion. Again, this was the first time they ever calculated how much money they were spending in Texas hospitals and in healthcare costs. They put this information together by the Texas Health and Human Services Commission. Texas Scorecard had access to the data, which revealed that hospitals recorded over 300,000 visits that were related to these illegals. Total costs of over $1.05 billion by the end of fiscal year 2025. So just imagine if they had been checking this in 2024, 2023, 2022, how much more money would there have been paid out? The amount is almost incalculable, and that's just Texas. Now, in addition to that, then we've got the money that is coming out of California. Now, Dr. Oz and CMS, they've been doing their own investigation. They've determined that California and a host of other states have been officially spending close to $2 billion on sanctioned health care for illegal aliens. That money in Texas, is probably just illegals that showed up to the hospital or, went to the emergency room. These are people that have been given CalMed cards or whatever they call it there, the California version of Medicare. Take a look at this.
Spent by 8 states, not just California, on Medicaid funds for illegal immigrants. Dr. Oz talking a little bit at a press conference about this.
Very specifically in California, we've already identified about $1.3 billion of federal dollars spent to take care of illegal immigrants. The state is giving that money back. We will call the rest of it, and we're continuing to audit quarterly the state Medicaid system to identify when patients who are legally here are taken care of without emergency situations. Emergencies are different, but when you come for elective hernia operations or dental cleaning, that's not going to be paid for by the federal taxpayer. It's not right. You don't want folks in one state paying for people in another state without them knowing about it and voting for it.
So Gavin Newsom came out and he said what?
So Gavin Newsom said, over my dead body. But the United States government, CMS, they have already billed California for that money. They've already said, you're not getting any more money. You have to pay us back that $1.3 billion. Every single state that was giving health care to illegal aliens has now got to pay that money back. This is on top of the fact that we've already shut down all of these welfare pipelines to these various states. Either they clean up their acts or their people are going to suffer. It's really too bad.
Gavin Newsom has been cleaning house as his office. He's blocked over $125 billion in fraud. I don't know where he got that number from. Arrested criminal, parasite.
And that's absolutely not true. Gavin Newsom has not blocked any money in fraud. Gavin Newsom has over and over again shut down attempts to even quantify the true amount of fraud that has been going through that state. Now, you guys remember a couple of years ago, California had announced that when people of a certain wealth bracket left the state, California was going to be taxing them, even though they're no longer living there. They were still going to be taxing them. Now, they're sending letters out to people, asking them to prove that they did leave the state, give them an accounting of all of their belongings, how much was spent on shipping their home goods and all of their possessions out of the state, explaining why they are choosing to leave the state of California, and also giving them access to all of their money and their finances, even though they're no longer in the state of California, because they know that they don't have the money to pay back for everything that's being clawed back from the federal government.
Leeching off taxpayers and protected taxpayers from the exact kind of scam artist Trump celebrates, excuses and pardons.
Oh, really? Well, Dr. Oz was saying that, quote, we have witnessed a 7-fold increase in hospice in LA County. 7-fold. That doesn't happen naturally. There is not 7 times more deaths in LA County than there were 5 years ago. These are fraudsters, and these do tend to be foreign influences, either Russian or Armenian gangs, mafia, that are leading a lot of these efforts.
There are quite literally gangs from all over the world coming to the United States of America because they know places like California, places like New York, places like so many other Democrat-run states. It's an easy mark. It's an easy mark. They know that they can walk right in, they can set up an LLC, and then they can get to business. S2G109 says, Zach, you should look at the profile picture of Newsom's press office. He's wearing a crown. So much for no kings. That was actually the picture that we just had on screen. I thought that was pretty funny, but thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. I'll go ahead and pull it up anyway since you paid. Let's take a look, because that was the picture that we just had on screen. Yep. Yeah, no kings except for Gavin Newsom. Yeah, I hope that guy ends up in jail too. All right, now, Dr. Oz is also attempting to do these investigations in Minnesota. He and Jim O'Neill from the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services went to Minnesota, and they literally were chased out of the city. They were pursued by people. It was just like the journalists that were looking into it, Nick and David, as Nick Shirley rather, as well as ICE and all of them coming in. let's go ahead and listen. This is from an interview they did with Alpha News, who has done. Actually,
I know you've spent the day.
This is all 13 minutes. We're not going to hear about it, but he does make one important point clear, and I want everybody to understand, because you might hear me talk about Minneapolis a lot, might hear me talk about Minnesota, but I want to be so crystal. This is not only a problem in Minnesota. This is a problem in all 50 states. I don't think there is a place in the United States that is free from some type of fraud and financial crime of this making. It's just that Minnesota is highly visible because you can look at the Somali population and 90+% of them are engaging in this type of behavior. So Oz said, we're seeing it around the country, but here's the part I want you to hear clearly. These aren't just small-time Americans making mistakes in their ethics. Of course, that happens from time to time, but most Americans are honest. They're not trying to steal millions of dollars from the federal government. We are talking about organized criminal gangs from foreign nations involved in these activities in Southern California, where you've got that 7-fold increase in hospice care. That means that you've got somebody out there setting up hospice locations, gaining access to Social Security numbers, Medicaid information, and then billing in the exact same way you see Somalians doing in Minnesota. Now, while in Minnesota, one of the funnier things that ICE agents have begun to do is, as they are being pursued and followed by these left-wing ICE watchers, what they're doing is getting the plates of these vehicles, and then they're having these cars follow them in funny ways. I saw a clip the other day. ICE went into a traffic circle, and they literally went in circles for 12 minutes to see which cars were following them. And then once they figured out who it was 100% that was following them, they would get their information, and a number of these guys, they then led them back to their own homes. And then they'd stop in front of their house, and they'd say, "You need to stop following us. We know where you live." Now, at least one of these people called 911, and this is a transcript of a 911 call. Caller is a civilian commissioner for police oversight in Minneapolis. I don't know if that's a real position or if this is just what they call themselves. He's been receiving info from several people who have been recording ICE agents that when they follow agents, they are leading the followers to their personal homes. Caller believes federal agents are running plates to gather addresses, possible NCIC misuse, or exactly the purpose that it was meant to be used for, because these people are breaking the law, and followers are concerned for their own well-being. Well, you might get Renee Nicole Gooded if you want to F around and find out. Hold on, I got something great for you. Okay, I'll do that one later. Caller has hopes that MPD could respond to their homes of the followers as a deterrent to show support to the community members. They want the cops to show up at their house just so that they can have them say, "We stand with you." Like, GTFO. They don't have enough cops in Minneapolis to even do their jobs. And they've had more police leave. I heard that something like 25 more Minneapolis police left the force, and they went and got jobs at ICE right away. I haven't been able to find any anything to back that up. I've only seen people stating that. But I'm hoping that I can report that to you factually here very soon. So caller hopes that the MPD could respond to their homes and show solidarity with the community. Caller advised info would be given to Car 92. SO1 told caller that someone would follow up with him via phone to advise them the matter or to provide them with a number on who to speak with related to this concern or their request. I'll tell you what, stop following ICE. Stop effing around. You won't find out if you do that very simple thing. Now, the Insurrection Act is something I think every single one of us is waiting for President Trump to announce. Over the weekend, we learned that Governor Walz was mobilizing the Minnesota National Guard, and we also learned that President Trump had ordered active duty soldiers to stand by, which may create some unusual positioning, because then you would have nearly a standoff of different military forces. Of course, President Trump's forces are going to be active duty forces. So these are guys who do one thing and one thing only, and that is train to kill. among other things. But they are training all the time because it's their job. The Minnesota National Guard is going to be made up of Minnesota citizens who do the weekend tours. So President Trump has repeatedly threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act if Tim Walz fails to stop the attacks on ICE officers. It got better over the weekend, but it hasn't stopped entirely. Now, of course, the Justice Department is also currently investigating both Walz and Jacob Frey for their encouraging of obstruction against ICE and the federal operation taking place. So as of yesterday, January 18th, Governor Walz was mobilizing roughly 1,500 soldiers, getting staged and ready, but they have not yet been deployed. The official framing describes them as ready to support local and state law enforcement in protecting critical infrastructure and maintaining public safety. Frankly, I hope they need to be put out on the streets. I hope that these fools in Minneapolis make it as uncomfortable as possible so that the National Guard needs to be called out and put these people in their place. One thing I'm worried about is that perhaps this National Guard battalion may be made up of people who are sympathetic to these ICE protesters. Walz stated that, likely referring to the conflict with President Trump, Minnesota will not allow our community to be used as a prop in a national political fight. You've already done that. You've already made yourself a prop. Now, when asked if the National Guard would be deployed against federal agents, Walz said nothing directly. He said, whatever it is, if it's an act of nature, if it's a global pandemic, or in this case, it is a rogue federal agent, to Minnesotans on the National Guard, they're there to protect you and to protect your constitutional rights. Now, as far as President Trump's deployment, the Pentagon has ordered approximately 1,500 active duty soldiers from the 11th Airborne Division out of Alaska. So these are boys that were built for the cold. They're going to be preparing to deploy possibly to Minnesota, but the deployment has not officially been ordered. And President Trump, of course, threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act as recently as January 15th, 4 days ago. On Truth Social, President Trump said if the corrupt politicians of Minnesota don't obey the law and stop the professional agitators and insurrectionists from attacking the patriots of ICE, who are only there doing their job, I will initiate the Insurrection Act. And if invoked, the Insurrection Act would allow President Trump to deploy active duty U.S. military. They would be able to act as law enforcement. He could also federalize the National Guard without state consent. So if Tim Walz puts the 1,500 troops on the streets and President Trump says, they mine, he wouldn't be able to do anything about it. Also, they would perhaps be able to override the Posse Comitatus Act restrictions that exist unless the Insurrection Act has been invoked. Now, the last time the Insurrection Act was invoked was under President George H.W. Bush. That was in 1992 during the Rodney King Los Angeles riots. Incidentally, President Trump has also repeatedly wildly inflated the number of times that George H.W. Bush used the Insurrection Act. He said 22, he said 28, but it was actually only 2 times. Now, last week we looked at post 28, which was the last number, and it seemed to have some interesting connotations for the current temperature. Now, the Walz has also made several statements encouraging citizens to monitor and document ICE operations. On December 18th, before that first shooting, he said he would rely on observers, regular people expressing their First Amendment rights to keep an eye on ICE. And then on January 14th, he did that address. He said, you have an absolute right to peacefully film ICE agents as they conduct these activities. So carry your phone with you at all times. And if you see these agents in your neighborhood, take out that phone and hit record. Help us create a database of atrocities against Minnesotans, not just to establish a record for posterity, but to bank evidence for future prosecution. None of these guys are going to get prosecuted in Minnesota. Now, of course, the term atrocities sort of presupposes that war crimes or crimes against humanity are being committed. There is no systemic or morally questionable acts that are being committed in Minnesota. There's no genocide. There's no Holocaust. There's no mass murder. There's no torture of American citizens. There's no lack of due process to go around. ICE is doing exactly what they are meant to do. So the language that Tim Walz is using to characterize the actions of ICE, obviously, it's creating a certain mood. in Minnesota. And the people who are operating under the assumption, the false assumption that ICE is engaging in any of these activities, well, they become more and more emboldened as time goes on. Jacob Fry, over the weekend, he was stoned as hell. I don't know why he went on the television looking as high as he did, but he seemed to be rather upset about the possibility of this active deployment. The rumors of an active deployment were going around all weekend. I had heard, perhaps it was going to happen as early as Saturday. It never did. But again, President Trump loves to keep these people in the lurch. He loves to bat them around like a cat with a mouse or a ball of yarn. And Jacob Fry, I think that maybe he ate himself an edible, maybe a little bit more than he normally would. And then he went on the air with Jake Crapper, and he spoke about his opinions on this stuff. Now, here is some reporting on the possibility of those 1,500 troops being deployed. Again, we haven't seen it yet. President Trump hasn't ordered it, but I would love to see it. So I'm eagerly anticipating what may happen.
The sun hasn't risen yet, but once it does here in Minnesota, it is likely that there will be more demonstrations today. We are entering week 3 of unrest here, and the clashes between law enforcement and protesters are showing no signs of slowing down. There was yet another tense day here yesterday. Outside of that ICE federal facility, law enforcement holding the line against angry protesters who can be heard screaming, "Kill yourself," and "Un-American" to law enforcement. The Washington Post is reporting the Pentagon has ordered about 1,500 active duty soldiers to prepare for possible deployment here to Minnesota if violence escalates. Now, Governor Tim Walz also mobilized the Minnesota National Guard yesterday. The Guard staged to support local law enforcement if needed, and it says it's ready to respond.
Now, the reason I think it's become less likely since this weekend that active duty troops will be deployed. But that's no reason not to give Jacob Fry and Tim Walz a couple of things to think about. President Trump loves it when these guys are off balance because it means they go out and they make public statements like this, which just dig them deeper holes.
News that there are 1,500 active duty U.S. soldiers on standby.
Look at Jacob Fry's eyes. Like, the dude looks baked.
To deploy to your state.
This act was clearly...
And he's moving slower than he normally would. Your feeds are echoing? They are? Okay.
Designed to intimidate the people of Minneapolis. And here's the thing. We're not going to be intimidated. If the goal here is safety, we've got many mechanisms to achieve safety. And the best way to get safety is not to have an influx of even more agents, and in this case, military, in Minneapolis. Right now, we have about 600 police officers, and they've got 3,000 or so ICE agents and border control. That they are now talking about deploying 1,500 military. This is, well, it's ridiculous, but we will not be.
Well, it's not ridiculous, though. Thank you. Okay, thank you for confirming. It's not ridiculous. I mean, over the weekend, last week, the clashes that were taking place at that ICE facility in Minnesota were getting worse and worse and worse. Now, this is why I think it's unlikely the deployment is going to take place. The federal government has now set up a barrier on the other side of the street. Now, they've got the fence put in all around the facility. They've got this barrier on the other side of the street. So now all of the protesters have to stay on this side of the barrier. If they go on the other side of the barrier, they've got the Hennepin County Sheriff's Department there, and these people are being arrested on site. Over the weekend, there were multiple arrests that took place. New felonies going to be added to their records. The mood has cooled down significantly since then, because you can see here, it's a much smaller crowd that was out on Sunday morning. And I think they realize that the power that they had to create memes and video clips, having these clashes with Border Patrol and with ICE and other federal agencies, it's all gone now. Now that they have to stay on this side of the barrier, there's really no point for them to be there. Interestingly as well, Tony Saruga, who has access to some incredible tools, geofencing, he's been keeping an eye on the people who have been coming to Minneapolis to engage in these protests. And he's finding that nearly 60% of them are not residents of Minnesota. Obviously, we know that people are being paid to come in and cause havoc, but it just goes to show you that it's an exceedingly small number of people that are actually from Minnesota that are engaging in these protests. It's primarily people that have come from outside. Now, Greg Bavino has also commented on this escalating violence and how these people are just attacking people walking down the street, people who are assumed to be ICE. Greg Bavino has been there all weekend. He's been on the front lines there at the ICE facility. He's been leading the charge of these people, beating back the protesters. Here is Greg Bavino talking about the sort of escalating tensions and how it's now starting to simmer down.
Anarchists, and I'm calling them anarchists now. These anarchists, these rioters, these bad people that wish to harm law enforcement are now harming American citizens. Those vehicles you mentioned that were vandalized, they've also, we've received reports, vandalized indiscriminately many vehicles in those hotel parking lots. They don't care if it's government vehicles and then they happen to get several vehicles of American citizens, innocent civilians, they don't care. And we're seeing that now. We're hearing reports from the police that that's happening, throwing nails out in parking lots where our government vehicles are not even located. They don't care. So these anarchists truly do not, they truly do not go towards federal law enforcement only. If you get wrapped up in this and you're mom and pop American, you get wrapped up and they even think you're law enforcement, then you're getting it also. And that's a big problem. I think that should probably wake some people up as to the depth and the scope of these anarchists.
The depravity of these people. They don't care, because he's right, they are anarchists. They don't care if the people whose cars they destroy are not ICE. They think that they are making some sort of a statement. Now, take a look at this. The owner of Arbor Gold, a tree trimming service in Minneapolis, posted this. Driving through town, and a convoy of vehicles started following. I'm going to turn this down. A convoy of vehicles started following, honking their horns and blowing whistles on every corner, trying to warn people we are ICE. I'm not ICE. I'm just a tree trimmer with a really big truck. This was about a week ago on the 11th. They are totally indiscriminate about the people that get caught up in this. Now, I wanted to show you guys this because I thought that this was hilarious. You've got a Muslim guy in Minneapolis. He's yelling Allahu Akbar. He's roaming through the streets with these protesters, and he finds a Quran on the ground, and he picks it up, and he kisses it, only to find that it's stuffed with bacon. Oh, my God. Oh, Patty Nine Fingers says, wouldn't the National Guard be federalized if the Insurrection Act is declared? Yes, they would. I actually mentioned that. I don't know when you posted that, but yeah, mentioned it in coordination with that story. Yes, the federalization of the National Guard would take place. So if Tim Walz mobilizes the National Guard and has them ready, thinking that he's going to have some standoff with the federal, with active duty forces, sorry, Tim, you got a rude awakening coming for you. Oh my God, I love that so much. All right, now, let me also say thank you very much to Tracy S., who says, no deaths, many injuries, drone footage. Hang on, what is this from? I'm not going to be able to Oh, gosh, this is from the pileup. Oh, thank God. So this is what she was talking about in Michigan. Drone footage from the pileup. Holy jeez. My family was in a pileup a couple of years ago, and unfortunately, people died in the car. Thank God nobody died. Wow, this is awful. All right. Denmark forcefully sterilized thousands of Greenland natives to reduce numbers. That is correct, Filter Dog 1. Red Pill Ken, holy, good to see you, buddy. Hello, RP78 and Judy the Lady Pug. Much love, my brother. Glad to see you here. Sean Joe, thank you for 2 cans. Darla says the leftist liberal lunatic fringe is hoping that a person of color gets shot by ICE so they can scream racism as in George Floyd. Yes, absolutely. But they're hoping also that they can just have another white person shot too. One Thunder, thank you for the can. Darla says Tampon Tim thought he was going to be VP and he would never get caught. I truly think that that is one of the reasons why he was chosen, because of all of this fraud. He was somebody who could be controlled, and of course it would get him out of a lot of potential scrutiny. Sean Joe, thank you for the can. Good Dog, thank you for the can. Sean Joe, thank you for another can. The Sentinel says, great show as always, Zach. I like your audio upgrade. It is much better than before. I am hearing a leveling effect with some reverb when you play clips now. Best improvement on the podcast. That was an accident. That wasn't supposed to happen. And then people told me about it and I shut it off. Well, Sentinel, I'm glad you enjoyed it for that brief period of time. Sean Joe, thank you for the cookie. Trump1 says, hey, Zach, good to see you. Sean Joe, thank you for dropping some memberships. Looks like Star Walker picked one up. Mad Hat picked one up. You dropped a cookie as well. True Reporting, good to see you, homie. He just got a 3-month Bronze Tier subscription. Good to see you out there, Thomas. People are always asking where you're at, buddy. Make sure that you drop your link in the chat. Sean Joe, thank you for another Bronze Tier subscription that Porpoiseful picked up. Cat Girl also got a 1 month. A from PA got one as well. Cat Girl also gifted a subscription. Trump 1 picked that one up. Cat Girl dropped another one that was picked up by Darla. Sir Lurks a Lot gifted a 3-month that was picked up by Ghost Rider. And No Thanks Joe says, thanks, Lisa and Zach. I hope that you both had a nice weekend together. And again, I'm looking forward to a week of new reporting and opinion from you. God bless and stay safe. God bless and stay safe to you as well, my friend. All right. Now, also over the weekend, another Hilton-associated hotel, this time the Doubletree in St. Paul, started canceling room reservations for ICE agents and just kicked them out of the hotel on Sunday. Now, of course, lots of damage was done at other hotels in Minnesota. You had riots erupting after the agents began arresting illegal alien criminals. Leftists have been storming hotels trying to intimidate ICE and then also to intimidate hotel workers. We've had personal identifying information from ICE agents staying at these hotels. And this hotel was started slipping letters underneath the door, informing ICE agents that due to heightened public safety concerns in St. Paul, their reservations were being canceled. Now, Allie Brady said that all government employees had to leave by noon yesterday, but other guests were allowed to stay through the end of their reservation. You can see here in the letter, please know that your safety and well-being will always be our top priority. Due to heightened public safety concerns in St. Paul, we have made the difficult decision to temporarily close our hotel, and your reservation will be canceled effective Sunday, January 18th at 12 p.m. We are taking this step out of care for you, our team members, and the surrounding community. Due to your unexpected departure, our team can assist you with alternate accommodations if needed. To support you during this difficult transition and as a gesture of goodwill, we can either refund your last night's stay or pay your first night's stay at your new hotel at the same rate as your canceled reservation with us. Thank you for understanding during this challenging time. With warmest regards, Doubletree, St. Paul. Now, Bill Malugin also obtained the same notice to ICE agents and posted it as well. And Hilton Hotels is already facing backlash after canceling previous reservations for DHS agents in Minneapolis. When officers attempted to book rooms using our official government email and rates, Hilton Hotels maliciously canceled their reservations. Hilton, of course, backtracked and said that it would drop the Minneapolis Hampton Hotel after the incident. They did. They are no longer affiliated with Hilton, but this is not a good look for Hilton. Now, also not a good look, some of those agents that were staying at that hotel were supposed to receive deliveries from Cisco, and a Hispanic driver that was taking these food orders to a Hilton hotel in Edina, Minnesota, saw that this was likely for ICE, and he canceled their order and returned it because he don't like ICE.
Hey, what's going on? So today I got a situation where I got to deliver to Homewood Suites in Edina. As you know, there's a lot of dangerous ice over there, you know, slippery. So I won't be able to deliver at that hotel. So all their frozen, cooler, and dry products, they ain't getting their soda, unfortunately. But it's just in my conscience, you know, with everything going on. So this is me about to cancel their order. So I think I'm gonna do this one. There we go. You know, fuck ice, bro. For real. I'm standing up for myself.
I'm standing up for myself. Hopefully this guy gets fired from Cisco. I don't think that Cisco will be worse for wear if they fire this guy and let everybody know about it. There's probably plenty of people who would be happy to deliver. Now, also over the weekend, an ICE agent who was part of a group that were there to arrest a child sex offender approached vehicles that were following them because he was sick of it. And he told them, you know, we're here to arrest a child sex offender, and you guys are completely blowing it up. So we have video from the scene from Freedom News TV. Let's take a look.
We're here to arrest a child sex offender, and you guys are out here honking.
Also, he just happens to be Hispanic.
Oh, they're not. No, we're pressed.
That vehicle right there is honking and impeding our investigations while we're trying to arrest a child sex offender. That's who you guys are protecting. Insane. That's what we're doing. My warrant's not for you. My warrant is not for you. I don't have this, bro.
She's saying they're lying. They're lying. Well, they're not lying. They actually were there to arrest a child sex offender. Need to say thank you so much to Renee. She says, thank you for all you do for us. Come on, guys, let's start a $5 boom for all Zak does for us. Well, thank you so much, Renee, for the $20. And then Patty Ninefinger says, boom. Thanks, Zak and Lisa. God bless you both. I really appreciate you guys. Now, also over the weekend, a Somali woman robbed Nick Sorter, stole his camera equipment, and then drove off, literally dragging him from this vehicle. Nick is a pro-Trump journalist. He goes to all of these protests and all of these locations. He had what he said was a $1,000 camera ripped off by this Somali woman while he was filming in Minneapolis yesterday. And there is, of course, video of the incident. A masked woman rips the camera out of Nick's hands while he's behind the wheel of a vehicle. He then jumps out of the car, goes and chases her. She gets in her car, and he grabs it and literally gets his hand stuck in the car door, and they drive off, literally dragging him. Let's take a look at the video as this happened.
Hey, 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 hey! Hey, get! What did she just do? She fucking...
Oh, shit. Okay, it's okay.
She took Nick's camera. She just stole Nick's camera.
Looks like he lost his mic, too. She's driving on the sidewalk, you guys.
Just tell her to give him the camera back. What happened, Nick?
They just stole my camera.
Right out of your hand while you're in the car?
That's what the fuck you wanted, right? That's what the fuck you wanted, right? That's what you did. Man, listen, motherfucker, you better get the fuck up out of here. You fucking coward! Motherfucker, you a coward, bitch!
You have to leave.
You a fucking coward. I can rob you, motherfucker! Get the fuck out of here! Bitch! You fucking coward! You a fucking coward, motherfucker! Nobody motherfucker, you trying to incite that shit! Nobody stepped in. Get the fuck up out of here, bro! $1,000 worth of equipment.
Fuck you, bitch!
Did you call? Did anybody call 911?
Why are you in this neighborhood?
Have Kevin do it. Okay. You fucking Nazis! We got it all on video.
We're not
right?
Nazis.
Man, you fucking Nazis!
We're not Nazis and we're not racist. I condemn Hitler completely.
You a fucking racist, bitch.
I'm not racist. I condemn all racism.
God, you a fucking Nazi.
I condemn all racism.
Why are you here?
We were driving through and we got followed. You guys followed us.
No, we're following you because who are you?
Bunch of Somali
Doesn't
broads.
matter. We're allowed to be here. It's the United States of America. Why do we have to leave?
What? They just.
We're not leaving until we get the camera. You want us to leave? Give us the camera.
Well, the FBI responded on X very shortly, FBI rapid response, and they said, we're on it. Now, of course, Nick was also attacked last week while he was covering all of this craziness that was happening there. His vehicle was surrounded by rioters. They spray painted it. It was vandalized. They smashed his window with frozen water bottles. They threatened to kill him. And also, police later detained Nick and Cam Higbee. They told them that it was his fault. And when he tried to speak to police after his camera was stolen, they said, well, you shouldn't be out here harassing these people. And they told him that he should leave. Hopefully he gets his equipment back. But they've also, this woman with this Kia has been identified. Hold on, I have her image right here, and we're going to pull it up. Turns out that her home address is the location of one of these likely fraudulent Somali businesses. Now, hold on. Where is it? Sorry, I thought I had it ready to go right here, but I didn't. I got to scroll through all of my bookmarks. Here she is. This is her. Copy and paste. All right. This is her Kia right here. Here is her license plate. Looks like 7KG007. She lives at, well, her address is a children's autism center. This is her buying that Kia that we saw right there. And this is the report of the vehicle dragging him right there. The party was dragged in reportedly with responders. He has a hand laceration, and it was Nick Sorter. Right here, I literally got robbed in a Minneapolis. Police decided it was my fault for being white in a Somali neighborhood. Yes. So we don't have any word from the FBI yet as to whether or not she's being arrested. But, you know, it begs the question, if this attitude towards Somalians is held by all Minneapolis, well, the answer is no, it's not. Here is an interview with a black Minneapolis resident, and he doesn't like the Somalians because these people are pirates.
Somalians ain't our people. They told them Somalians don't fuck with us when they came up here. That's why they don't fuck with us. And we don't fuck with them. You notice we ain't trying to help them cocksuckers. And then look at all the money that they stole. Look at all that $9 billion. And then put nothing in the community. Fuck them Somalians. It's just like George Floyd. His stupid ass family got $20 million and they didn't even build a community in the city. They just left with the money. Fuck George Floyd too. Put all that shit on to whatever you filming, put that shit out there, because that's how it go. When you don't fuck with the community and help the community, fuck you. They took that money and left. Now look at them. They all broke. They got tricked out of all that money. They ain't got shit right now today. Off of $20 million. Come on, man. Quit playing with the game. All this shit is a farce. Somali.
All of it is a farce. Somalis are not part of the community. So here we are at the culmination of this weekend's events. Keith Ellison did an interview with Don Lemon. He was there this weekend, and he took part in all of this weekend's festivities. Now, Keith Ellison in this interview described Renee Nicole Good's death and said that it was beautiful that she tried to kill ICE agents and that we need some more white people to die on behalf of our Somali community. Let's go ahead and hear Keith Ellison, who is also currently under investigation by the Department of Justice.
This woman lost her life trying to be vigilant on behalf of the most vulnerable members of our community.
Yeah.
And I think that that is beautiful. And so we're standing where she lost her life just a short while ago. And
well, as we say in this country, right, we are in pursuit of a more perfect union, not perfect.
Yeah, that ain't it, Keith. That ain't it. That ain't it, Don Lemon. So Don Lemon joined a protest that stormed their way into a church in St. Paul. In the middle of the ceremony, they harassed the pastor, they harassed the parishioners, they literally ran these people out of their church while they were worshiping yesterday.
What if
And this was, of course, an act to intimidate. This was an act to try to force these people, to shame them, and have them join their protests?
This is the beginning of what's going to happen here. When you violate people's due process, when you pull people off the street, you start dragging them and hurting them and not abiding by the Constitution, when you start doing all of that, people get upset and angry. And if you remember what the Civil Rights Movement was about, the Civil Rights Movement was about these very kinds of protests. And for some reason, in our modern era, people think that in order to have protests, you got to be, cordoned off to a certain area and, what time you can protest. There's nothing in the Constitution that tells you what time you can protest. You can protest at any time. That's the whole point of it, is to disrupt, it's to make uncomfortable. And that's what they're doing. And that's what
The point is to disrupt, to make them uncomfortable, and make them uncomfortable they did. Now, this was an illegal act, and it got the attention of Pam Bondi, it got the attention of Harmeet Dillon, it got the attention of the entirety of the Department of Justice. Now, it also got the attention of Nicki Minaj. She said, Don cocksucking Lemon is disgusting. How dare you? I want that thug in jail. He would never do that to any other religion. Lock him up. So true. Can you imagine if this sort of thing would have happened to a mosque? If this would have happened in a synagogue, it would immediately be labeled as a hate crime. Well, thank you so much to number one Indiana Dad. Good to see you, homie. Let me see if there's a message over here on Ko-Fi. Thank you very much for that donation on Ko-Fi. And let's see. Here's $25 donations. $100, $25 donations. Number one Indiana Dad, thank you so much. I appreciate what you do. God bless this great republic. I appreciate you, my friend. Thank you so much for that. Now, while he was there, he also lectured the pastor on what he should be doing and how he should be behaving. Take a look at this. Just so disgusting.
What do you think of this?
I mean, this is unacceptable. It's shameful. It's shameful to interrupt a public gathering of Christians in worship.
But there were folks who will say,
I have to take care of my flock.
Okay, but listen, we live in there's a constitution in the First Amendment to freedom of speech and freedom to assemble and protest.
Yeah. We're here to worship. We're here to worship Jesus because that's the hope of these cities. That's the hope of the world is Jesus Christ.
I want to be very respectful. Please don't push me though.
We're here to worship Jesus. Yes. That's why we're here. Yeah. Okay. That's why we're here. Okay. That's what we're about.
Don't you think Jesus would be understanding
we're about
and love these folks?
We're about spreading the love of Jesus.
But did you try to talk to them as a Christian?
No one is willing to talk.
Okay.
I have to take care of my church and my family, so I ask that you actually would also leave this building.
You don't want us to chronicle what happened?
Unless you're here to worship.
I'm always worship. I'm a Christian.
We're here to worship. Yeah. We're here to worship. Okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Don Lemon is not a Christian. This is not an example of the First Amendment. This is not an example of an acceptable protest. Pam Bondi spoke with the pastor, at the church that was targeted. She said attacks against law enforcement and the intimidation of Christians are being met with the full force of the law. If state leaders refuse to act responsibly to prevent lawlessness, this Department of Justice will remain mobilized to prosecute federal crimes and ensure that the rule of law prevails. Now, Don Lemon also had an interaction with a man outside of the church who pointed out his hypocrisy. Of course, Don does not like when people get the better of him. Let's check this out. And then I want you to remember what Pam Bondi said, because it is going to come back to haunt Don and all of the others who not only organized, but participated in this lawless act of intimidation.
These people have come into our house and they've interrupted our worship. This is a house of peace, and we try to proclaim that. And this stirs division and rancor. And in the end, it's not helpful. Ultimately, I believe they've lost. They've emptied a house of worship. Everybody's gone home. Their point has been proven worthless. And so, in the end, I think they lose. But more importantly, if I was to break into any of their houses uninvited, cause derision and upset according to their values, I would be kicked out ultimately. It's not a good way. I feel violated. I feel interrupted. I feel angry.
May I ask you something? When you were saying if you had showed up at their house, they're saying that people are showing up at houses where they're citizens or without due process and breaking and entering the house. One that we saw, I've been watching.
It is entirely different, and Don Lemon knows that. ICE agents going to the houses of illegal aliens with final orders of deportation who have every legal right to be removed, regardless of where they are, regardless of what they're doing at that time. It is an entirely different circumstance. Now, the churchgoer also said, well, Don said, you should know that, though. Don't you think that's part of it? In addition to the idea that these people who are being arrested, Don claims that they are American citizens. Those people are being arrested if they're American citizens because they are engaging in unlawful acts. Now, the churchgoer says, I could also show you many opposing cases where they're picking up very real criminals who have put Americans in danger. I'm not saying it's pretty. I'm not saying it's not messy. I'm not saying it couldn't be better. I'm saying this is part of a much larger dialogue in which one administration caused a great deal of chaos, havoc, the Biden administration, endangered the lives of American citizens, and another is trying to correct that. Don says, do you believe that, honestly? He said, listen, you're not a journalist. Yes, I am. I want to give you the facts. No, you don't. Do you know that undocumented people and immigrants commit far less crime than American citizens? Yeah, that's not true, Don Lemon. The truth of the matter is those people commit crimes. They're just not prosecuted. So first, we learned early this morning that the DOJ was, in fact, investigating Don Lemon and the radical mob who interrupted that church service. Now, if it wasn't for the fact that Don had to be an attention whore and broadcast the entire thing under the guise of being a journalist, the evidence may not be so overwhelming against him. Now, he said this is the beginning of what's going to happen here, further insinuating that there will be additional acts of intimidation and potentially violence against church goers. Nikema Levy Armstrong publicly praised the disruption on social media. She was the organizer of this, and she said that judgment had come to the house of God. Here, friends, here's a clip of our demonstration this morning at City's Church in St. Paul. David Easterwood is a pastor of the church and the acting field director for the ICE office in St. Paul. It's time for judgment to begin, and it will begin in the house of God. Thank you to all of the activists who showed up and independent journalists, and then she tags all of them. So these people will all be visited by federal agents as well. Harmeet Dillon said, on it, a team of prosecutors and investigators are hard at work tonight. We will not rest until we deliver justice, meaning that the Civil Rights Division is now investigating the actions that took place over the weekend. Once the attention of the federal government started to be shown on Don Lemon, he got a little bit nervous, and he put out a response video seemingly attempting to distance himself from the actions that were taken and the behavior that was broadcast everywhere for people to see. So here, he says that, oh, I didn't do anything wrong. I was just doing journalism.
MAGA administration and the fake news MAGAs are losing their mind over something that's not even true. So let me just make it clear, because this assistant attorney general, I don't know, gosh, what's her name? It's something Hammett, Dillon or whatever. So I had no affiliation to that organization. I didn't even know they were going to this church until we followed them there. We were there chronicling protests. Once the protest started in the church, we did an act of journalism, which was report on it and talk to the people who were involved, which included the pastor, members of the church, and members of the organization. That's it. It's called journalism. First Amendment, all that stuff. For all of you people who believe in the First Amendment, absolutist, there you go. So why don't you talk to the actual person who is in charge of the organization and whose idea it was to have the protests at the church before you start blaming me for stuff for which you have no idea.
Oh, we will, Don. We will. They're already planning on it because we know exactly who she is. Now, if it wasn't for the fact that Don filmed everything, we might not know as much as we do. But here, Don Lemon admits in this clip that he has foreknowledge of exactly what's going to happen. This was his live stream prior to entering the church, where he interviews the woman, Nikema, who organized this, clearly showing that he had some level of affiliation, that he had some level of knowledge, and that he knew exactly what they were going to do.
Into Minneapolis a little bit ago and did some reconnaissance on the ground, speaking to an organization there that's gearing up to for resistance and protest. I've been pleasantly surprised to see the community coming together. Diverse community. If you see this, when we first pulled up, we're like, wait a minute, which operation are we at? And as it turns out, because we're like, well, this is kind of MAGA coded, right? So the American flag or whatever, but these are resistance protesters. They're planning an operation that we're going to follow them on. I can't tell you exactly what they're doing, but it's called Operation Pull Up, and it's Nikema Armstrong, and she has been doing this since George Floyd, Dante Wright, and others, where they surprise people, catch them off guard, and hold them to account. And so that's what we're doing here. And then after we do this operation, you'll see it live. And these operations are surprise operations. Again, can't tell you where they're going.
Well, he also interviewed Nikema there in that same clip. Now, let me just say, I've said that this wasn't journalism. This was a violation of the FACE Act. Harmeet Dillon has said that as well. It's also a violation of the Enforcement Act, which is known as the KKK Act. Now, here is Harmeet Dillon speaking from a legal perspective about exactly what we saw in those clips.
The Attorney General has been on this from the moment it happened. There are already 2 prosecutors from my office on their way to Minneapolis, and they'll be there this morning. We have an FBI team assembled and local prosecutors as well. This is going to get the highest attention from the Department of Justice because there is no more sacred right in our Constitution than the right to assemble and pray to God. And there are federal laws that protect that right. And what happened here was a shameful exercise of virtue signaling, disruption, fear, terror. You can see children in this video being ushered out the back by their terrorized mothers. And this is illegal. And I want to add that the Biden administration prosecuted people peacefully praying outside abortion clinics for much, much less.
If you'll also remember, a couple of years ago, I interviewed some people from New Braunfels, Texas. They were part of that Trump caravan that they were accused of violating the Enforcement Act because they followed a Biden campaign bus, and the campaign bus said that they were in fear of their life, that they were intimidated out of town, and the Biden administration prosecuted them under the Enforcement Act. What Don Lemon did, what those protesters did, was wholly illegal. And Harmeet Dillon has now explicitly said that Don Lemon will, in fact, be charged under the KKK Act for what he did over the weekend. Mama Maria, thank you so much for the $25 on Rumble. She says, I listen to your show every evening on my way to work. Thank you so much for the truth in these deceiving times. Keep up the great work. I appreciate you, my friend. Isaiah 53 says, Don Lemon doing spell casting. And Denise Ann says, the Constitution does not give us a right to protest. It gives us a right to assemble peacefully. And these people had no right to go into a church. This is private property. Don's in the wrong. Patrick D. 35 says, Queef Ellison needs to go to jail. And American Patriot 1776 says, I hope you and Lisa and everyone in the chat are doing well. The fog of war can be frustrating sometimes. Thank you for doing what you do, brother. Where we go one, we go all. And Trumpet on the train with the $5 says, boom. Isaiah 53 says, breaking news, Somalis are thieving scum. Misfit Angie says, challenge accepted. You're the best, Zach. Thank you so much, Angie. And Maggie Bunn, good to see you, Maggie. She says, I'm in on the challenge. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate that. So let's hear from Harmeet Dillon. Don Lemon now officially being charged under the Enforcement Act. This is very, very serious. The Ku Klux Klan Act is the colloquial name for the Enforcement Act of 1871. Let's talk about what it does. It prohibits conspiracies to threaten, injure, or, most importantly in this instance, intimidate individuals to prevent them from exercising their constitutional rights, and that includes the free exercise of religion. So Don Lemon not only accompanied these protesters, but as we showed you, he had prior knowledge of their plans to target the church. They were in the midst of service. They knew exactly what they were going to be doing, exactly what they were going to be interrupting, and they were chosen because it was a church whose pastor works for ICE. Some have alleged that he was the one who incited the protests to target that church specifically. We see in Don's own footage, he's discussing this secret operation with the activists. We see him interviewing Nekima, the organizer of that group. He said in the clip, we don't know what's happening. We kind of do, but we don't know how it's going to play out, right? And let me see. This is the same clip. So, all right. Now, here he is praising these rioters after they stormed the church.
People who are wearing the uniform now, you think they're patriots?
I don't think so, especially those ICE agents.
That's what I'm talking about.
This guy is one of the worst. He's known as the woke farmer, and he's being arrested harassing people in Minneapolis very recently. I played a clip of him chasing down a father who was walking down the street with his daughters.
Yeah.
Well, no, they're terrorists. They're traitors.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for your service. I appreciate it.
Today we had the honor to protest.
Thank you for your service.
With Nekima Armstrong and the Racial Justice Network. Just like Jesus did, we went into that church and we flipped tables peacefully.
Shame on you!
Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? Where are your people?
This is the house of
Why are you not at Whipple every day fighting for the humanity, standing for our people? Where are you? You drink your coffee, you got your...
Look at him going around to people and intentionally harassing them, intimidating them, essentially stopping them from exercising that religious freedom that we have here in the United States.
Jewelry, you have your nice clothes, but what do you do? What do you do to stand for your Somali and Latino communities?
I'm not going to comment.
You have no comment, exactly. As you can see, all these pretend Christians, all these comfortable white people who are living lavish, comfortable lives while children are dragged into concentration camps. You're living real life, nice lives with your lattes, doing absolutely nothing for your Latino and Somali brothers and sisters. You come here to a man wearing a suit. Is a preacher? Did Jesus wear a suit? Did Jesus profit off the words? No! Jesus would dine with enemies. Do not touch me. Touch me again and see what happens.
Hey, you can't.
You are a fake Christian. Why are you not standing with your Somali and Latino communities? Why do I not see you out at Whipple every day protesting this attack on humanity? Where?
Unconscionable behavior. Here we've got a picture of a little kid crying as he's being harassed by that piece of shit right there. So let's hear from Harmeet Dillon.
We will pursue charges in this case. I see various crimes that have occurred. Exactly what they are, I'm not going to flag, but the FACE Act has been mentioned as one of the predicates there. In other cases, the Biden DOJ used the Klan Act conspiracy charges tacked on to the FACE Act in the case of protests outside abortion clinics to bring much longer sentences. So there are a number of tools available to us. Who funded this? What else? What other crimes may have occurred? Was there a use of the wires or the mails in preparing for this event? Did anyone cross state lines to do this? All of those are potential predicates for additional federal charges.
Armin, I've just pulled up the Klan Act because this is the first time that I've heard this mentioned. This is a act that was passed in 1871, correction there, to combat the Ku Klux Klan and protect African Americans' voting rights, especially the Enforcement Act, which is known as the Force Act. So here's some of the information on screen. Would you mind breaking down for us, because we have just read the FACE Act and how this is in affinity to the FACE Act, an obvious and egregious demonstrable violation of the FACE Act because they were entering a place of worship, harassing and threatening.
So punishment for violating the FACE Act can start at about 5 years in prison. There can be multipliers to that given all of those circumstances that Harmeet mentioned. You can see from her face, she's not effing around. She is definitely not effing around.
We just played a video of a bearded man, who was threatening to attack the Christians that were worshiping there. So it seems like an obvious FACE Act violation. But the Klan Act here, it is on screen. First time I've heard it mentioned. Can you unpack this for us, Harmeet?
Yeah, the Klan Act is one of the most important federal civil rights statutes, and it goes back to the time when President Lincoln emancipated the slaves, and yet the southern states, Dixiecrats mainly, were refusing to give them equal rights. And in fact, that you had sheriffs and you had law enforcement harassing the newly freed slaves. So the Klan Act is a law that makes it illegal to terrorize citizens, to violate their civil rights, to get together and conspire to violate the civil rights. It is often used against law enforcement, but is now used against others as well. So whenever anyone conspires to violate the protected civil rights of American citizens, the Klan Act can be used to bring a conspiracy charge. We in the federal...
Hold on.
This executive order is the fuck around and find out order, also known as the FAF.
This is the one I wanted to play for you.
Wow. I didn't know that. I just, you're telling me now for the first time.
Law enforcement parlance call this 241 and 242 civil and criminal conspiracies. And so what the Biden administration did is, if 3 grandmas got together to pray outside an abortion clinic for the souls of the people inside, and including the unborn children,
and they were sent to prison. All right. Now, she said on X, to all those asking where the arrests are, Minnesota state prosecutors could have made those arrests yesterday, but the DOJ must first go before a federal judge and obtain an arrest warrant. So that's why you haven't seen Don Lemon be arrested yet, but it will happen. Now, in addition to violations of the FACE Act, Don Lemon has also explicitly stated his intention of storming this church. Now, that could potentially fall under acts of terrorism, because that is the intimidation or violence against someone based on religious intention. Now, again, Nakia Levy Armstrong is the full name of the woman who planned and executed this Operation Pull-Up, or whatever it was. Let's see. Artsy Joe. Oh no. AKA Lou9 is now a monthly supporter. Thank you so much, Lou. Also, Misfit Angie says, in Somalia, the region practices Islam. 99% falls under a federal ministry. And then Artsy Jones says, I didn't know about the challenge, but I'm in. Anything for our favorite host. Zach, thank you so much. PJW says, Dalla Holla for Zach. Thank you so much. Rebel Nader says, boom. Anyone else feel like Zach is worth it? He never asks. You all know he's worth it. Thank you so much, Rebel Nader. I really do appreciate it, buddy. Now, This man right here was the guy who was screaming at the Christians in the church. He carried on outside of the church. Of course, he was the one who was yelling at children, essentially telling them that they were fake Christians. You can see here that these people coming up to him, they're not engaging violently. They're not screaming at him. They literally just want him to leave because the actions he's taking are completely unhinged. This man should not be behaving in this way. And you can see here, they stood up at the front, in front of the pulpit. They literally stopped the preacher from being able to minister to his flock.
Out now! Out now! Living real comfortable while the people starve. Living real comfortable while children are dragged into concentration camps. You're all living real.
This is a van full of kids trying to escape this lunatic.
Comfortable, aren't you? Shame on you. Do something. Stand with the Somalis. Stand with the Latinos. Quit ignoring this injustice. He wears a suit and tie and he hangs out with Kristi Noem. How is that a Christian? You're supposed to accept all immigrants, are you not? Why are you not going down to Whipple and joining us in protest against...
Stop telling me what I am supposed to do as a Christian. This guy does not know shit. Now, he's obviously heard about the FBI's interest in this case, about the DOJ's interest in this case. So he has now specifically spoken out to Pam Bondi and the DOJ. His name, his real legal name, is William Kelly. William Kelly. Now, he, of course, is known, as I said, as the woke farmer. And he has posted his response right here. We know his name. We have his socials. We just now have to get the indictment.
Yesterday, I went into a church with Nakima Armstrong and I protested these white supremacists. A pastor of the church is a fucking ICE leader in the city. How can you be a fucking pastor and be a fucking ICE agent? Fuck them. They want to come after me? Fuck them. How can they live so comfortably while the fucking people from Somalia that are in this country legally, that have fucking citizenship, can't even go to their mosque and pray? How do they deserve any fucking different? Fuck those fucking Nazis. Come and get me, Pam Bondi, you fucking traitorous bitch. All power to the people.
I cannot wait to see this guy in handcuffs. Nothing would make me happier. Now, in addition to that, this guy was out over the weekend in Minnesota, in Minneapolis. He was standing on the street with an AR. He's got a suppressor on it. And he said that essentially he was ready to kill ICE agents if they came into the neighborhood.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You live in the neighborhood?
Yep, this is my block, this is my area. I don't go into other people's neighborhoods and try and intimidate them. I protect my people.
Are you giving out your name?
No, I'm okay with that. Our neighborhood's showing up.
You guys had a lot of people out here, right?
At least 30 or more,
yeah.
40 or 50.
That's pretty good for a quick turnout.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, now, his name is Zak Paine. He's 31. He lives in St. Paul, and he was, on a number of occasions, found to be threatening federal law enforcement officers. So hopefully they're going to visit him as well. Also, here's another crazy leftist who posted on Facebook, it looks like. This is also being reported to federal officials. Hey, Minneapolis, face-to-face confrontations on the street aren't the only way to fight ICE. Do you make their food? That's a weapon. Do you fill their prescriptions? That's a weapon. Do you make their beds? That's a weapon. Do you wash their clothes? That's a weapon. Do you handle their credit cards and personal info? That's a weapon. This battle can be fought on many fronts. Get creative and make every aspect of their life uncomfortable, unhealthy, and unbearable. That has also been reported to federal officials. Now, as if disrupting a church service wasn't enough, Anti-ICE protesters are now taking over retail stores. Here they are taking over a Target. I'm literally not as upset about this one, but I find this one to be hilarious because I don't know what they think they're going to accomplish by sitting on the floor in Target and playing drums. Target is like one of the worst examples of corporate wokeism. So take a look.
We are one. We won't stop fighting. We won't stop fighting. Till ICE is gone. Till ICE is gone.
Target says that their mission is to support the joy of everyday life for all families. Then do it.
Do it now.
Justice over profit.
Justice over profit. People over.
I sit here not only as a mother or a grandmother, but I sit here as a great-granddaughter of an immigrant. And I sit here and I ask Target, you must stand with us. You must stop discriminating. You must stop treating immigrants wrong. You must give them better wages. You must give them an opportunity to have housing. You must
give them better wages, give them more money. She's asking for Target to give more money to illegal aliens. I don't know what they think that's going to do. They're going to get the whole company of Target to come out and say, we stand with illegals who are scamming the American people. Here is that asshole, William Kelly. Help me scold demons for their bad life decisions. He's raised $40,000 in the last 24 hours from 90 people. Looks like he's gotten a Chinese donor, $100 from Zun Chen. Road trip to help me travel the nation, scolding the Gestapo for their bad decisions. Well, he's going to need to use this money for his legal bills because he's not going to be able to travel anywhere. Isaiah 53 says, reminds me of the scripture where God says he will place hooks into his enemies. I think that they have hooked themselves entirely. Trisha, thank you very much for that as well. And then that's all for that. Let me say thank you very much to a couple of people over here on Pilled. Thank you to Candylicious for the can, Hogleg for the cookie and the can, Dixie for the 500 gold pills, Hogleg for another can, Judy the Lady Pug for 500 gold pills, Filter Dog who says, do you think black Americans are starting to realize Arab Muslims hate them worse than anybody? I think they already are aware. Except for the brain-dead leftists who are out there with them. Darla says, blacks are waking up because they're no longer the favored race of the demon rats. They dropped them and replaced them with illegals. Relationship gone bad. Absolutely. The Blexit. Redgun 51, thank you for the can. Deplorable Farmer, thank you for the can. Sir Lurks-a-Lot, thank you for gifting a subscription for 3 months to Lightspear. And another one to Blonde BLQ. And no thanks, Joe. As I told Adel earlier, I would simply love to see the authorities Roger Stone all of these schmucks with the media and helicopters and the whole 9 yards. God bless. I think that is about to happen. All right, you guys. We also have word of a criminal investigation into Renee Good's widow for her alleged role in the shooting. Well, not widow, her ex-girlfriend, for her role in the shooting of Renee Nicole Good. So they're investigating whether or not this woman is to blame because we saw it on camera. She said, drive, baby, drive. She's got a lawyer by the name of Anthony Romanucci. He put out a statement on Saturday who says there's been no contact from the FBI or federal officials indicating that Becca Good is the subject of an investigation. I believe, however, that she is going to be investigated, and she's also going to find a rude awakening. That legal that fund that she had raised in her name and in the name of Renee Nicole Good's son, who no longer has a mother, that's likely going to be used for legal bills. Jim Kyle says, love you, buddy. Love you too, homie. Thank you so much for that. All right, you guys, I'm going to get going. I got to eat some dinner and get ready for the show tonight. We were supposed to have Frank on, but Frank is not going to be able to be there. So I'm going to have to put together a conspiracy in a very short period of time. Let me go ahead and pass out these gold pills. And before I go, I just have one more message from our friends over here on Rumble. Let me bring this up. Okay, and right here. Okay. One more reminder about Rumble Wallet, you guys. They can freeze your accounts. They can shut off your cards. They can lock you out of your money overnight because banks don't protect you. They control you. That's why real financial freedom starts with ownership. Introducing Rumble Wallet, a wallet built for people who refuse to give up control. With Rumble Wallet, you don't just buy digital currency like Bitcoin and Tether. You can also own Tether Gold, real gold on the blockchain. Through Tether Gold, you get direct ownership of physical gold bars, each one fully allocated, verifiable by serial number, purity, and weight. This isn't paper gold. This isn't an IOU. This is real gold without bank vaults, storage fees, or gatekeepers. You can buy, sell, or move it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even when traditional gold markets are closed. And if you want, Tether Gold can be redeemed for physical gold. That is power. And when you support creators on Rumble, you can tip them directly using Rumble Wallet, peer-to-peer, secure, and outside the banking system. No permissions, no middlemen, no cancel button. The wallet is yours forever. You can go to wallet.rumble.com or use that QR code that you see right there or the link in the description below this video. And don't forget about the other final sponsors of today's show, including my friend Mike Lindell over at mypillow.com. Use code RP78 to save up to 80% off of Mike's amazing American-made products. Everything they're offering right now on a special winter sale. My friend Jordan over at consciousstrength.net/RP78. This is where I get my methylene blue. Highly recommended. Make sure that you check out the contraindications if you're on other medications. That is important. My friends over at rncstore.com/RP78, where they have incredible products made from apricots. You should check them out because they are totally worth it. The link for rncstore.com is in the description below this video. When you use code RP78, you'll get 10% off of everything they offer. And if you want to see interviews that I've done with John Richardson Jr., you can find them on my Rumble channel on the playlist. There is one playlist, and you will find it right there. Also, of course, prepare with redpill78.com for My Patriot Supply, survival foods, and so much more. And, of course, don't forget about my friend Jessica at goallgood.com. Use that code REDPILL78 to get a free gift of tallow and save on all of their products. And finally, my friends over at c60evo.com/RedPill78, where right now they have 40% off bundles. And when you use code RP78, you'll get an extra $15 off. I'm going to set up a raid for you guys. And then hopefully I'll see you tonight on Baseless Conspiracies. But if I don't see you there, then hopefully I'll see you back here tomorrow at 5 p.m. for another episode of Red Pill News Live. And it looks like ZBM just got in under the wire. Love your hard work and your awesome weekly shows, sir. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate you. Good luck. God bless. And I will see you guys on the next one. Please make sure you hit that like button before you guys go. It would mean a lot, and it's totally free. Sending you over to Mike and the boys at Space Shot 76.